Hello and welcome back to another episode. Indeed, welcome to the hottest day of the year so far. We're pushing 25, 26 degrees outside and it's a bit warm. Fun fact, this morning I saw a Google Street View survey car in the local supermarket. Yeah, well, in the car park, anyway. Anyway, today we're going to be playing Psycho Pinball, and I'm going to be emulating this game because, unfortunately, the only TV in the whole house that can receive the Megadrive RF signal decided to break a couple of days ago. It's so frustrating. So I'm going to have to get a new old TV, if you see what I mean. But today we're going to be emulating this online, and the good news is that you can play this game yourself if you want. I'll leave the link in the video description below. And so far I found that Google Chrome is the best browser for this website. So little tip from me to you. Psycho Pinball is a game that really stands out in my mind, partly because it's still the best pinball game ever made as far as I'm concerned, but also as well, when my brother and I got it from the Megabytes market store in Rill, the box really stood out. It came in a cardboard sleeve, and the Psycho font there, the static font, was sort of silvery on the cardboard outer shell to this experience. And so it was surprising. It sort of spoke of quality, it spoke of intrigue, and both my brother and I became very much addicted to this game. It's made up of four pinball tables: Trick or Treat, Wild West, The Abyss, and Psycho. And Psycho actually connects as like a circus kind of themed board to the other three. So if you want to go for like a huge score, you start on the Psycho table and you go into the other tables using your skills. But I have to say my skills are probably quite weak. So let's start with The Abyss, shall we? My favourite of all the tables in the game. And at one point I was astonishing on this table, but yeah, it's been so long that since I've regularly played this game, I'm sure teenage me would be highly embarrassed. But teenage me was very impressed with this game. I really enjoyed the art style, the crisp, clean graphics, the appealing, charismatic music, the strong themes, and also, funnily enough, actually, the pinball physics. You know, growing up in North Wales, Rill, just up the road from me, where I spent many a weekend in the arcades, was chock-a-block with pinball machines. I think I've said previously in the past that one of my favourite pinball tables was the Star Trek The Next Generation pinball. I very much remember playing that a lot. Speaking of which, actually, I dusted off this guy transforming Enterprise D. It turns into the one from All Good Things, I believe, with the third nacelle on top. He was on top of a shelf anyway. I'm going to try to find a way to hang him from the ceiling. Anyway, sorry. So I have very fond memories of playing real-life pinball. That's my point. And this game doesn't feel like real-life pinball. It feels much more cartoony than that, and I'm sure that comes across in the graphics and in the music. But the way the table plays, it plays, you know, in the same way that I appreciate films, for example, that use film as a medium to tell stories that, for example, you can't tell easily in a book. For example, you know, going back and forward in time, as in films like The Prestige, this kind of thing. This game uses computer game potential, to present to you a pinball game that can't really be done in real life. It can't be done in any other medium. And so, yeah, by no means is it the best pinball simulator. Probably the best one simulator in that sense is still the Gottlieb collection on the Wii that I still love and adore to this day. But this is the best pinball game of all time, in my opinion. And bit by bit, you can sort of learn the different techniques. This is like an upper portion of the table, and we're going back down to the straight out on the lower portion there. And as with all pinball tables, there are things you have to unlock by pushing certain buttons in an order or unlocking certain pathways. In this table, for example, there's a volcano vortex that will periodically shake the table and make things really difficult for you. And I know in some modern pinball tables there are elements of the stuff that you get in this game, like, for example, second tables beneath the primary play space, so you can sort of almost see through perspex to the table below. And there may even be, for example, with the advent of affordable small-scale gyros, this kind of thing, the ability to electronically shake the table, as with this game. But that wasn't common, certainly when I was playing, or with the pinball games that I was playing as a kid. And frankly, I'd be very surprised if in real they've managed to update many of the pinball tables to have modern, to buy basically the latest pinball. So this game represented for me a sort of a break with reality, and a break with a very pleasing break with the limitations of real life pinball, and I loved it for it. I suppose the best way I can say how this game feels compared to a real pinball table is to say it feels almost like the ball is like a basketball, I guess. It's a little bit rubbery. Now, there's an irony there, in so much as if you drop a steel ball and a rubber ball of the same mass, the steel ball, I think, will bounce higher than the rubber ball. So maybe that's not the best analysis, but it's a bit more bouncy, a bit more forgiving, a bit more spongy, a bit more likely to catch that saving little corner, so it doesn't actually go flying straight out the table, than a real pinball, I guess, real pinball machine. And so yes, I appreciated that as well. This felt like, well, as for example playing football on a computer game or first-person shooters, this felt like a forgiving, programmed world that you were engaged in, and I very much appreciated it for that. Now then, let's move on to the Trick or Treat table, shall we? So here we are, Trick or Treat, and this table again has a very strong theme. The music again is excellent, and graphically, if you look at, just take a moment to look at the graphics here, they're not photo-real. It does feel very much as though you're playing in a, funny enough, actually, it reminds me of like a Looney Tunes computer game. Actually, it reminds me of things like Marv the Martian or that sort of thing. I think, is it Marv the Martian? Games that are based on cartoons. So this is a cartoon-looking game, but it works. Goodness me, does it work! And I very much appreciate it. Now, my brother and I, as I say, we would compete quite regularly on these, and you may notice that what I tend to do is rack the table with 4 players. So basically what we get is 4 lots of 3 lives, and that's the best way to try and get into the groove of actually give yourself even a slight chance of getting a decent score on this game. Frankly, I've got to start playing this game a bit more often again, because you sort of start to learn the requirements of the table. You learn what has to be what button has to be pushed in order to get through what hole in order to light up what element of the story. And essentially, I use the word story almost by accident then, but that's basically what these tables are. They represent little narratives. And the better you are at keeping the ball on the table, he says, losing it, the better the chances are that you will unlock the story of the table. Now this does carry through to the FX3 pinball game that I recently downloaded for Switch, where obviously graphically the game is utterly gorgeous, although I don't particularly appreciate their business model. For example, they've released versions of their pinball game on, for example, I've downloaded it on Xbox, I've downloaded it on Switch, on the iPad, for example. Even though my iPad's ancient, it can still play it. And their business model is one whereby they charge you through the nose per table, basically. You get 1 table for free, which I think is the Sorcerer's Lair, which is quite good fun. And that's kind of how I exist on that game, is just by playing the Sorcerer's Lair, which thematically reminds me of this table quite a lot, actually. Oh, God, I'm not playing very well, am I? I'm talking too much. So in terms of the pinball games that are in my life, in this house at the moment, this one is still, in my opinion, the best, because you get all the fun of a collection of pinball tables with different themes, different goals. For example, there you go, I've locked a ball up in the tree there. Lock up 3 and we'll get, I think, all 3 released onto the table, which becomes lots of fun. You get, in that sense, different stories because you have the different tables, and where, for example, the Gottlieb collection beats this game in terms of the range of games and tables that you can play. This game beats Gottlieb in the fun factor, in that slightly, as I was saying, that slightly sort of unrealistic, forgiving physics, fun computer game delivery that I think a pinball game should have. Oh, I'm not playing very well at all, really I'm not. See, this is part of the reason why I was sort of putting off playing this game, because I remember really being good at it, and all I'm doing now is just failing. It's like I say, teenage me would be ashamed, I think, without a doubt. So yeah, as I say, maybe this is a good thing that we're getting to emulate it today, because you can, if you want to, have a go. The only thing I would be aware of is not, well, again, every computer is different. On my computer, if you have too much running at the same time, you'll notice that the audio on this emulation goes, it goes sort of down a key. I think it sort of slows down just a touch if you're taxing the computer a bit too much. Do you know what? I'm terrible at this. Why am I doing so badly at this board? Right. Time for a bit of focus. Okay. Bit of doom. There we go. Oh, man. Now, the Wild West table, which we'll play in a bit as well, again, also has a very strong story. Elements here. There's elements of breaking out of jail, and a card game, for example, trying to get, I think, is it probably poker, could be blackjack. In fact, let's take a look at that, because this is just embarrassing. Yeah, let's do that. So Wild West, here we go. Now, this table, oddly enough, was my least favourite as a child, I seem to recall. I really didn't enjoy it, but I don't know, I mean, it's looking back, I have very fond memories of the table. Maybe it just the sort of the atmosphere and the story just didn't translate as well in my head as in particular the Abyss. Now you may notice that the music slows down a little bit on this one. I think there's more going on this table. But again, I think that'll just depend on your computer in that sense. So yes, I'm going to try and do my best to light up as much as possible on this playthrough and get through the story a bit. I think this game basically set me up for a lifetime of disappointment, because Psycho Pinball, in my humble opinion, should have been a series. There should have been every now and then a new Psycho Pinball and a new crazy take on pinball in that sense. And so a little bit like how I always used to imagine, for example, haunted houses should be, with lots of interactive elements and lots of discovery, instead of just being on a ride and having things pop out at you. This is kind of what this pinball game has done for me in terms of other pinball games, is that it sets up a vibrant, exciting, larger than life expectation that as to what a pinball computer game should be. And so when, for example, again, things like the collection is fired up on my Wii, I'm kind of expecting something a bit zany, something a bit psycho, as it were, to present itself. And that's not what most pinball games are trying to do. Most pinball games are essentially trying to be a simulation, I guess. And this one is not a simulation by any means. and I love it for that. In fact, this game inspired me so much that I used to draw out. I used to design pinball tables. I would go so far as to to think about measure, for example, using a ruler and a compass, where the angles for the average bounce might be coming off certain paddles, and what would happen if essentially trying to make the path of the ball through the table as interesting as possible. And I've never actually designed real life pinball tables, but I hope that's what they have to do. And they go, I've just lit up Outlaw, so probably a score bonus. I really like the way that the score is being tracked, or the bonus element, the reward element is being tracked on the poster there. It's going up and up, bit like that. Yeah, so I hope that's what real life pinball table designers have to do, is think about how the ball will travel, deciding what's going to be like a fatal dropout, what angle will just leave, send the ball flying straight out of the play field. Ooh, 3 balls have escaped from the jail. Multi-ball. Here we go. But that was certainly something that I found myself doing anyway. And so in that sense, this game, and hopefully the game designers would appreciate that this game, it was inspiring me to design pinball tables. And I was loving it. Oh. Now, obviously, as with most multi-ball scenarios in pinball tables, it just becomes a, keep the balls on the table, please, don't let them fall out. I'm not really thinking about where I'm sending them. Just as long as they don't all leave, which they more or less have. Anyway, that was quite a good little run. 17 million for player 4. There we go. So, I fully and freely admit, this has not been me at my top, at the top of my game playing this pinball game. But hopefully you can see a little bit of why it is that I love Psycho Pinball and what makes it different from other pinball games. So let's take a look at the final table, the Psycho table. Okay, so 4 players, start game, and Psycho Pinball. Now the Psycho table, as I say, connects all the other tables together as possible sort of play spaces, and this is where the true potential of a computer game, pinball game, really shows its value. It's entirely impossible to achieve in a real-life arcade unless you somehow sort of connect the pinball tables using little tubes. That would be quite good fun, actually. I'd love to do that, but I haven't got the money to achieve that. Well, frankly, I think the fitness, the idea of running around from table to table when the ball goes to the next table. So there you go. That was trying to enter the Wild West tent there, but I haven't got all the 3 bullets lit up yet. So hopefully we'll be able to light up one of the tents at least and get onto another table. But yeah, this whole idea of there being a circus, a sort of a slightly chaotic carnival kind of atmosphere, really led me to hope that in the future, for example, on the N64 or on the PlayStation, whatever, there would be another Psycho Pinball. And frankly, that would have been a console seller for me. I would have purchased anything. The least popular console, I would have purchased a Sega Saturn, for example, if it had Psycho Pinball on it. But it never happened, and I think that's a shame. Presumably this game was just a bit too niche, or didn't sell well enough, or who knows, maybe it's just a one-off project. But it just made an impression on me, and I've always appreciated the effort, the character, and the love that these guys clearly put into their pinball project. That was a waste. There we go. Can I get the full ride? Yes! ×2, excellent. I also appreciated the way that clearly these guys love, the game designers and the coders, the programmers love pinball as well. They understand how pinball tables work, and also, crucially, they've understood how they would like pinball tables to work. They have, as I've been saying all the way through this, been going to town on the medium of a computer game. This is their fantasy pinball, and it very much became mine. Now, it's interesting how one thing I do remember is that my mum was very nervous about the title of the game, so Psycho Pinball, and I don't know. I don't really know what to say about that, except that I don't know. I guess it was the 90s when it came out, and words like psycho, crazy, you know, spaz, all that sort of stuff. These were words which were being bandied about in a slightly less, I don't know, politically sensitive age, I guess. Which I'm not saying is necessarily a good thing, you know. One of the insults which one of my friends was famous for was, and this is not me using the insult, I'm simply talking about the word, was Gaylord. And as a kid, I never knew what would that mean? What could that mean? And it's only as I got a bit older that it increasingly became ridiculous, this idea of being, first of all, you know, being gay, okay, whatever, but then the idea of being a lord of gay was just ridiculous. And so yeah, so there's the homophobic element, but also it's just weird. Some of the insults that people would throw around, like my surname as a kid was Astles. I've double-barreled my surname with my wife now, so it's a longer name, but it was Astles. And my first name is Mark with a C, and I might have already said this on a previous video, but people used to say, oh, fruit pastels, you know, Astles sounds like fruit pastels. And eventually I sort of turned around to these kids, he says, I was the same age as them in primary school, and said, come on guys, look, Astles, arsehole, yeah? Call me that, don't, fruit pastels, it's not even an insult, it's a sweet. So maybe people back then were just less imaginative when it came to insults, you know. Anyway, my point is, sorry, that words like Psycho Pinball, I wonder how that would fly today, you know. Would it get past the SRB without some sort of modification? Who knows? Would it last long on the shelves of, especially places like Target and Best Buy in the US, without there being some sort of protest, as you often hear about computer games these days? Okay. Damn it. Okay, so that's two bullets lit up for the Wild West table. Can we get another one? Okay. I'll have to keep on leaving the table now. I also really like the sort of the LED scoreboard display at the top of this whole game. That's probably something that you've noticed quite early on. The little animations that they put in there, the use of the scoreboard. I suppose it would be nice to be able to have another sort of camera perspective on this in this game, so you can actually see these tables as tables, as you do get, for example, in the Gothic collection. As such, these are just play spaces with scoreboard banners, I guess, at the top. Whereas actually seeing maybe a hint of glass and maybe some of the artwork for the individual pinball tables could be fun. But that's where I'm starting to become a bit of a pinball geek unnecessarily, I think. As it stands, as I keep on saying, the game for me is perfect for what it is, for what it's trying to achieve, and crucially, with a bit of practice, and when you're not trying to narrate your play, you can become pretty good at it. Okay. There we go. Okay, that's that, and not quite. There we go. So basically you use the paddle buttons to manipulate things like the lights and the switches. Splash. Oh, okay, that's another light. Is that lit up for the... Yes, for the abyss. There's 2 whales or fish lit up now. See if we can get another one. Got M2Os on moon. That's it. It's the better concentration. No! Yeah, okay. Being a bit quiet now. I want to actually play some pinball. Anyway, it has been a busy few weeks. If you're still here watching this video, I am obviously grateful that you are still hanging around. But also crucially, yes, it has been extremely busy for me. Lots of travel. On Friday I was in Sheffield doing some filming for work. Filming, funnily enough, an archaeological project that's based, whose offices are based on an urban farm on the edge of Sheffield. So yeah, Munich one week, Sheffield the next. I live a life of glamour, I really do. Ah! Now, I did actually try playing this game using the sort of native emulation keys on the keyboard, and for me, it wasn't really working very well. On the you know, in terms of my experience and my expectations, the game plays on the lines of that. On a Megadrive controller, C, which is this button, the B button, is the right hand paddle, and the left hand paddle is the far D-pad stick. So we push that, I'll stop the D-pad. It's west on the D-pad, so there we go, that's west on the D-pad, and then B like that. So it sort of feels, I guess, like a little bit like you're pushing each side of the pinball machine as you would in an arcade. Speaking of which, you know, that whole arcade experience really is something which it's a shame that it's less and less common. As I say, I think I'm extremely lucky to have been brought up in, yes, an area of the country which is economically quite deprived, but nonetheless it still has that sort of pinballing, arcading, computer game, earning, you know, tokens at the arcade kind of culture, because it's good fun. There's like a mini arcade here in the northeast in Whitley Bay, just up the coast from where I live. But it's not the proper, you know, full fat arcade experience. Anyway, let's see if we can get something to happen. Cup confusion. Okay. Oh. C, I think. Yes! Thank you very much, mister. 5 million points. Haven't lost all my skills. Yeah, it's a very small arcade. Well, essentially it's one arcade, whereas in real, for example, you get lots of arcades next to each other on the beachfront. And so if the prices or the game selection isn't so good at one arcade, you can move on to the next. That is not possible, for example, in Whitley Bay. So, yeah, in that sense, had you asked me as a teenager, was I being spoiled? Of course I wouldn't have acknowledged it. I wouldn't have known it. I wouldn't have known any difference. And that's kind of, I guess, the beauty of being a teenager. You don't know anything about the world, or how, in some respects, how fortunate you are to have your particular life. Oh, it looks like the trick-or-treat is open. It's flashing. Okay, can we get there? Can we get there? Okay. But now I look back on those times in the arcades and at the beach with a sense of pride, I suppose, and in that sense a sense of an understanding of being fortunate. And it's not just driven by nostalgia, it's genuinely driven by the fact that now I have a much greater understanding of how, for a start, how the majority of the world lives, but also actually how lots of other people, for example, in Britain live. They don't have access, for example, to the seaside, you know? Okay, so P. C again. Oh, B. Oh well. And in some respects, it makes me aware that I would like to be able to sort of, you know, provide elements of my childhood for my kids, you know, if and when we have any kids. Access to the countryside, hills, the beach, and thankfully there is lots of that around. For example, in the northeast of England, Northumbria is one of the great hidden gems of Britain, in my opinion. Slightly rambling now. This is meant to be about pinball. What am I talking about? But this is exactly it. This is the whole point. This is the whole point, guys. I have such a strong emotional connection to this game that it can't help but make me sort of, you know, a bit rose-tinted glasses, a bit sort of teary-eyed and nostalgic. But it also kicks me in the nuts. One up, okay. 2, 17 million. 3, 5, okay. 4, 7. So I did better as player 2 there. Game over. And there we go. Psycho Pinball. It's all about Psycho Pinball. I really do strongly recommend that you at least give this game a go. And if you are intrigued by the game, try and get good at it. You know, get good, as they say. It rewards effort. It rewards practice, as do the best pinball games. And in this instance, yeah, I love it. I just love it. Anyway, guys, I'm getting slightly lost in my own nostalgia and slightly lost in the heat of the day, I think, as well. As ever, guys, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.